He was born without talent, but after being adopted by the mightiest SS rank Mage, his only weapon was sheer willpower. Through endless training, his hands bled, his bones ached, yet his resolve never wavered. Time moved on, and the child who once couldn't produce a single spell became someone others feared. But there was a secret, one even his master didn't know. Buried within him was a dark magic, strong enough to shift the world's balance. It all begins in a shattered city, where a woman discovers a boy named Lloyd, silently staring into the distance. What he sees isn't revealed yet, but the woman feels confident this boy might be the key to defeating the Demon King. She drops her guard and hugs Lloyd, who remains motionless. Soon after, she takes him to her home and shows off a spell that creates fire in her hand. It's Lloyd's first time seeing something so fantastical, but the woman commands him to copy it if he wants to eat dinner. With zero training or explanation, Lloyd attempts the spell. By day's end, he manages to produce a flicker of flame. She's mildly impressed, but not enough. She scorches him with fire, saying he still has a long path to walk. The next day, she teaches him a water spell by stomping on the ground. Lloyd replicates it on the first try, though it only makes the ground moist. The woman, unimpressed, punishes him by soaking him completely. She later teaches him wind spells, and as time passes, Lloyd also learns to control ice. In a few months, he crafts an ice statue in her image. Lloyd, now calling her his master, believes he's finally earned her approval. But she isn't satisfied, she thinks he still lacks real power. To show the gap between them, she animates the statue to grab Lloyd, enlarges it, and smashes it apart. Seeing the massive difference, Lloyd becomes more determined and trains harder than ever. One evening, his master falls ill after drinking too much. Surprisingly, Lloyd heals her instantly, revealing she had also taught him healing spells. She gives him a hug for the quick recovery, but claims it still doesn't earn her praise, and tells him to get back to training. After several more months, Lloyd's master is seen clutching a mysterious book. She looks uneasy and is startled when Lloyd walks in. The book slips from her hands, and as Lloyd picks it up, something activates, causing him to faint. His master realizes from this strange event that Lloyd might be destined to become the chosen one too. Her reaction also hints that she might share the same fate, though it's not clearly confirmed. Still, she doesn't want Lloyd to repeat the same error she once made. Fearing he may become too confident in his powers, she gently kisses his forehead as he sleeps, casting a spell that likely restrains his abilities. The next morning, she introduces Lloyd to the concept of a white mage. She explains that Lloyd is also a white mage, someone who typically uses supportive magic to help others. As a practice task, she instructs him to use healing magic on an apple tree to enlarge a single fruit. Lloyd succeeds, but his master shows how she can instantly cause the whole tree to bloom with apples. That night, during another magic session, Lloyd becomes curious about something called ancient magic. However, his master quickly dismisses it, telling him it's a lost art from long ago and irrelevant to his current training. Instead, she begins teaching him more advanced skills like space magic, which lets users summon or store objects at will. His lessons intensify, and eventually, his master decides to push him further by blindfolding him and dropping him in an unfamiliar forest filled with monsters. Giving him nothing more than a kitchen knife, she instructs him to survive and return home within 7 days. She vanishes instantly, leaving Lloyd shaken. Moments later, a wild wolf appears and chases him through the woods. Lloyd narrowly escapes by climbing a tall tree. From there, he uses space detection to find his master's home far to the north. Determined, he begins walking. That night, he uses his healing spells to ripen nearby fruits and eats them for sustenance. He shelters in a small cave and begins constructing a magic circle to increase his physical strength. By tweaking his spells creatively, he makes them enhance his core attributes whenever activated. The next morning, while traveling, he stumbles into the territory of a massive queen spider. As the spider lunges, Lloyd sprints away and activates one of his newly adjusted spells, boosting his speed dramatically. The burst carries him all the way to his master's doorstep, where he collapses from exhaustion. She opens the door, smiles, and welcomes him home. Time moves on, and Lloyd matures. As he gets taller, he's allowed more freedom around the house. One day, while tidying his master's study, he finds a book about urban life and becomes intrigued by the idea of living among crowds, something he's never known. Meanwhile, his master continues her odd experiments, turning him into her full-time assistant. This leads to many sleepless nights. One morning, she heads to the rooftop to meet Lloyd, as she always does, still driven by the same purpose. She intended to punish him so harshly that he wouldn't even be able to stand. But once she reached the room, she found it empty. All she noticed was an open book, which seemed to be the last thing he had been looking at. Meanwhile, Lloyd wandered into the city for the first time. As he entered the marketplace, he was overwhelmed by the bustling crowd. The sheer number of people surprised him. It was almost overwhelming. He hadn't realized that so many people lived here. It was entertaining in a way. With no set objective, he simply explored and observed his surroundings. As he stood around, a flyer suddenly stuck to his face. At first, he assumed it was the wind, but in truth, someone had deliberately tossed it at him. Lloyd peeled it off and read that a group was searching for an adventurer to join them. With nothing better to do, he decided to check it out. Upon arriving, he witnessed an adventuring party locked in combat with a beast. The team was in rough shape, and their leader, Alan, ordered the mage to use healing magic. She obeyed immediately, and the fight resumed. She also bound the creature with her spells to give Alan an opening. With that, Alan finished off the monster. The rest of the group surrounded him, praising his victory. Lloyd, unimpressed, turned and quietly walked off. Outside, people in the village were buzzing about Alan's greatness, praising his recent conquest of the Cyclops from Abertuff Castle with his squad. Back at their lodging, Alan distributed their earnings. Surprisingly, he handed a portion to Lloyd. Alan explained that it was Lloyd's share, even though he was considered a deranged adventurer. Lloyd accepted it silently and left without saying anything. His quiet attitude confused the others. Alan brushed it off arrogantly, claiming that white mags didn't matter much in real adventures and were mainly there for show. Lloyd overheard this but showed no reaction. He calmly shut the door behind him and departed. Elsewhere, his mentor was visited at home. It was the same person who had thrown the flyer at Lloyd earlier. The man informed her that Lloyd had joined Alan's group. She reacted calmly, stating that she didn't care what path Lloyd took, as long as he stayed humble. The man asked if she still held regrets from the past. She simply said she didn't want history to repeat. They recalled the battle with the Demon Lord. Back then, everyone had perished, until Sybil stepped forward. Using forbidden ancient magic, he brought back everyone at the cost of his own life. Right now, the hero party is gearing up for another battle. Even before it begins, people are already cheering for them, confident they'll come out victorious like always. The moment the fight starts, Alan quickly wraps it up and heads back with the team chanting his name in celebration. Back at home, Sheena, the mage of the group, decides to dive into her books again. She believes there's always room to improve, especially defensively. Alan approaches her, curious why she's studying so intensely. She explains her concern about their defenses weakening lately. Alan disagrees, insisting he's only getting stronger. She points out he hasn't trained in a while, but he confidently replies that he doesn't need to, he's unbeatable now. Sheena doesn't argue, just watches him silently. That evening, a golem attacks soldiers near the riverbank, leaving no survivors. The kingdom acts quickly and sends word to Alan, asking him to take care of the threat. He accepts the mission right away. Alan heads out with his team. Lloyd uses his abilities to pinpoint the golem's location. As they arrive, they find a mysterious figure beside the golem, a creature with a staff. Lloyd warns the team that this is no ordinary enemy, it's from the demon race, and it's controlling the golem through the staff. Alan tells Lulu to fire an arrow at the demon, and she does. He also instructs MIA to prepare for combat. Alan plans to charge straight at the golem, but Lloyd tries to stop him, saying it's reckless. He insists he understands the golem's power and weaknesses better and urges Alan to hold back. Alan snaps, reminding Lloyd who leads the team. Ignoring him, Alan dashes forward. But Lloyd, still worried, moves ahead to shield Alan and ends up pushing him away. Alan shoves Lloyd aside in return and strikes the golem, defeating it instantly. The moment proves Lloyd's warning was off the mark. Back home, Alan accuses Lloyd of being useless, saying he's contributed nothing since joining and left all the healing work to Sheena. Alan demands he leave the party. Lloyd doesn't argue, he agrees, calling himself weak, and walks away. The others celebrate his departure as a relief. For the next 3 days, Lloyd tries to join other parties but keeps getting turned down. Just when things seem hopeless, he overhears a woman urgently asking for an unaffiliated white mage. A guild staff member asks if she's talking about Lloyd. She turns to him, confirms he's not part of any party, and before he can say more, she grabs him and runs off with him. Lloyd walks aimlessly through the city, still disheartened by being kicked out of his party by Alan. The harsh words echo in his mind. Alan had claimed Lloyd brought nothing to the group, calling him a worthless white mage who merely hid behind others. According to him, Lloyd's only role was healing, and even Sheena could handle that better. Trying to understand why he was seen that way, Lloyd asked Alan if he genuinely believed he had no talent. But Alan brushed him off coldly, telling Lloyd to interpret it however he wanted and just go. As Alan left, the other girls, except Sheena, didn't hold back, openly celebrating Lloyd's departure, glad the dead weight was finally gone. Eventually, Lloyd wanders into the heart of the city and spots a fountain topped with a familiar statue. It looks just like his master, triggering a deep wave of nostalgia and loneliness within him. Meanwhile, a group of adventurers are preparing to storm a bandit hideout. The mission is ranked A, so they're on high alert. Crumb, the redhead of the group, seems emotionally checked out, lacking her usual drive. Despite this, the raid begins swiftly, giving the bandits little chance to react. Silica, the team's mage, begins casting her spell aloud. Spotting her vulnerability, one of the bandits yells to wait until she finishes before countering. As her chant nears its end and her energy drains, the enemies advance. However, Cross, the team's archer, has her covered. From a distance, he releases a perfectly aimed arrow that cuts down several bandits in one blow. Their teamwork shines through. Yui, the swordswoman and team leader, stays calm in the heat of battle, fending off foes with skill. Even when she slips, Daggers, their shield bearer, rushes in to defend her without hesitation. Crumb finally joins the fray, empowering Daggers with her magic to increase his physical strength. Supercharged, he breaks through the enemy lines, helping to secure their victory. The bandit leader, realizing the situation is hopeless, tries to make a run for it. But Yui intercepts him, warning him not to resist and to surrender immediately. The leader is confused. He demands to know who Yui really is and why they were attacked. That's when he notices the golden pendant around her neck. It marks her as an S-rank adventurer. Shockingly, all of her teammates carry the same badge. They're an elite team. In desperation, the bandit leader activates a hidden spell using his staff. A massive golem erupts from the earth. He smirks, confident that the golem's resistance to magic will neutralize their strength. That removes two team members, Crumb and Silica, from the fight. Cross also admits his arrows won't do much here, leaving Yui and Daggers as the main combatants. Yui takes the initiative and strikes with full force, but the golem shrugs it off like nothing. Crumb, still mentally checked out, fails to react when Yui calls for her magic support again. Yui has to practically shout just to snap Crumb out of her trance. Once she regains focus, Crumb finally activates the physical boost spell. The enhancement surges through Yui, amplifying her strength by at least 5 times. In a single, clean motion, she slices the golem in half. With the objective completed, the party secures all the bandits, including their leader. Afterwards, Yui approaches Crumb to discuss what happened during the fight. Crumb admits her mistake, apologizing for losing focus and saying she no longer feels worthy of being called an adventurer. Yui sympathizes with her, knowing Crumb's troubles stem from her sister, Sylvie. She gently asks how Sylvie is holding up these days. Before Crumb can respond, the scene transitions to Lloyd, who's now faced with 3 straight days of rejection from every team he's approached. Then he hears a voice at the guild counter, someone urgently calling for a white mage. It turns out to be Yui, and apparently, she's already dismissed Crumb from the group. Sensing a rare opportunity, Lloyd steps up and claims to be a white mage. Without asking for his credentials, Yui grabs him and drags him to their party base. She introduces Lloyd to the others and welcomes him as if he's already agreed to join. Her teammates immediately realize Yui brought someone new without explaining a thing, something she's known to do. Cross breaks down the situation. They're pressed for time because of an urgent mission, and Crumb's absence left a gap they need to fill fast. Still, none of them are convinced Lloyd is qualified, and even he doubts himself, especially after discovering they're part of an elite S-rank team. Though Lloyd has pretty much given up on his own abilities, Yui hasn't given up on him. She urges him to demonstrate his magic. With little confidence, Lloyd tries anyway, summoning a staff from storage magic. That alone gets their attention. Then, without reciting any incantation, he casts physical enhancement on the entire team. At first, no one notices the effect, but Yui decides to test it. With a mere flick of her blade, she effortlessly cleaves through a massive tree, leaving everyone speechless. Lloyd reveals he didn't just use a basic enhancement, he layered several strengthening spells together, dramatically raising Yui's capabilities. The party is in disbelief. Compared to Lloyd, Crumb was nowhere near that level, though Lloyd himself still doesn't seem to grasp just how powerful he really is. He explains he used 5 different spells because he assumed that a single enhancement wouldn't be good enough for high-level adventurers like them. He knows the team is top tier and just wanted to impress them. But judging from their stunned silence, he assumes they're disappointed, and what he did wasn't enough. For someone like Lloyd, being constantly looked down on has shattered his confidence. Thinking he's let them down, Lloyd quietly says he doesn't want to drag the team down and starts to leave. At first, no one says anything, they're too shocked to respond. Yui quickly regains her composure and shouts with everything she's got, begging him to return. He eventually turns back, willing to at least hear them out. He opens up about his past, explaining how the heroes team cast him aside for being seen as a burden. Yui is stunned to learn he was even part of the heroes team. But he quickly tells them not to make a big deal out of it, he doesn't think he's anything special. It's clear his confidence has hit rock bottom. He advises them to go back to their previous white mage, saying it's likely a smarter move for the team. They start talking about Crumb. She's talented and had been with them for a while. But Crumb has a sister named Sylvie who has been ill. Before this, Crumb juggled being an adventurer and caring for her sister. Lately, though, she's been completely drained, and it started affecting her ability to fight. During their last mission, she lost focus and nearly got the entire team into serious trouble. Even though none of them blamed her or asked her to leave, Crumb felt guilty and stepped down on her own. Normally, they could handle quests without a white mage. But for high-stakes A-rank missions, they absolutely need one, or they wouldn't make it back alive. Besides being a strong support, Crumb had become a close friend. Yui expresses her concern, and the others echo the same. Lloyd notices how deeply they care and realizes they see Crumb more as a friend than just a fellow adventurer. When they confirm that, Lloyd quietly reflects on how fortunate Crumb is to have teammates who genuinely care, unlike those from his past. He asks what kind of illness Sylvie is dealing with, and is told she's slowly turning into a magic stone. It sparks a memory. He once read about that rare condition with his mentor and learned it could be reversed. Realizing he might be able to help, he asks Yui to bring him to Crumb's home. Once there, Crumb answers the door, and they sit down to talk. Lloyd brings up Sylvie's condition. Crumb explains that she and Sylvie were both adventurers. During one mission, Sylvie got hurt, but Crumb wasn't present at the moment it happened. She only found Sylvie after the injury had already occurred. Lloyd presses for more details, and Crumb leads them to Sylvie's room. When she opens the door, a heavy surge of magic fills the air. Crumb gently pulls back the covers, revealing that Sylvie's arms and legs have already turned to stone. She tells them that the stone will eventually cover her entire body. Lloyd says he might be able to heal her, but Crumb doesn't believe it. She's already asked multiple skilled magic users for help, and none had a solution. She doubts an ordinary white mage could do what the experts couldn't. Lloyd cautiously asks Crumb if Sylvie's injury occurred inside a cave, and to his surprise, Crumb confirms it. After examining the wound, he determines that the invading magical energy is causing symptoms similar to a magic stone infection. Although Crumb still isn't entirely convinced about Lloyd's skills, he explains that his mentor once mentioned this could be a possible solution. Yui encourages Crumb to trust Lloyd's abilities, and with some hesitation, she agrees to let him try. Lloyd pulls out his staff and begins casting a powerful spell that drains a good amount of his energy. He informs them that he's using a spell designed to suppress the magic overflow running wild inside Sylvie's body. According to him, the excessive magical energy is the real problem, and by lowering it, he might be able to heal her. Without wasting time, he follows up with a restoration spell. Crumb watches in disbelief and remarks that the spell he's using doesn't resemble a standard healing technique. Lloyd acknowledges that it's a more advanced version, one that consumes much more mana than usual. Still, he insists that it's just a normal healing spell and carries on. Yui turns to Crumb and asks what she thinks about Lloyd's magic. Crumb admits it's clearly not ordinary. What amazes her even more is that Lloyd is managing 2 separate spells at once, something that requires immense strength and mental focus. Yui then points out that Sylvie's condition is visibly improving. She gently takes her sister's hand as Sylvie begins to recover and slowly returns to her normal state. Everyone is overwhelmed with joy and relief. Crumb expresses deep gratitude but explains that she won't be rejoining the party. Now that Sylvie is better, they plan to begin traveling together as adventurers. Before leaving, Crumb offers to take everyone out as a gesture of thanks. She tells Lloyd she trusts him to keep the group safe, but he humbly replies that he's not officially part of the team yet. Crumb is visibly surprised that he still doubts himself. Later, the group gathers for a celebratory dinner, and Yui shares the incredible story of what Lloyd did to heal Sylvie. Even with everyone praising him, Lloyd continues to downplay his actions. Yui gently scolds him for being too humble, insisting he's done more than enough. Still, he apologizes for not convincing Crumb to stay, though the team isn't worried about that right now. Instead, they focus on celebrating and looking ahead to the future. As they discuss what lies ahead, Lloyd reflects on how different this group feels compared to the hero team he once knew. He finally asks if he can officially join them, an unexpected turn, considering he had previously declined. To his relief, they reveal they had always hoped to work with him, and he's welcomed into the team at last. Thanks for watching. If you like this anime recap, then please like, share, and subscribe for the next part.